Yes, this was a really tough decision.
It was. I could see you agonizing over it.
Yeah, I spent a long time in the tank on this one. So the two breaking news are exactly what you want to see really early. I just didn't want to see both of them at once.
Exactly.
If I had maybe a more taxing piece of ice, maybe more like if I had economy, for example, instead of two booms, this would have been an instant keep. But as it transpired, I didn't. So I I felt like I made the risky play in the first game, right, by installing a keyhole and going down to zero. That was like in chess it would be sharp, right? It's a sharp opening. That was my sharp line of play there. This one I didn't think I could take a sharp line of play again. So yeah, I decided to play it safe and mulligan. I could have mulliganed into a worse hand, but no. I mulliganed into what I think was an IP block, sweeps, hedge, and maybe a breaking news as
I
well.
think you
So
had a couple of booms as well.
yeah,
believe you found
yeah.
both booms early.
Actually, you're correct. I did have a boom. Yes. So the mulligan was fantastic.
Yeah,
Uh,
I think I would have kept in your position and I would have been dead wrong because I agree, your mulligan hand was way, way better. I mean, the game's playing out right now. We saw your opening was IP block HQ followed by double economy. So yeah, straight up 13 credits, threatening hard hitting news right away on turn 1. That's really good.
yes, that is. Having a strong credit lead or differentiation is really important for the deck. Just because the ability to threaten hard hitting news is kind of a cornerstone for it actually, and something that a lot of runners didn't necessarily respect throughout the tournament. Um,
Yes.
yeah,
And it helps a lot that current Reg Wiz builds don't run Employee Strike. They used to for a while, but now that they don't, it means that they can't necessarily clear tags as easily as they used to. Having moved to currents that help defeat Moon Spam, which are pretty much blank against Sync. So Laurie
yeah.
had a rather decent economy start as well, but because of that hard-hitting news threat, he couldn't afford to run R&D turn 1. And I'm not sure why you top deck here. It might have been a break. It looks like it was the breaking news actually that you top deck.
It does, yeah, because it doesn't look like I shuffled my hand after
Yeah.
drawing from R&D there.
That was like a
So
knee-jerk, ooh, two advanced agenda, let's score it, and you showed it.
yes, yeah, and like the second the guys on the stream commentary saw the install in advance, they were like, "Oh, surprise, surprise! It's going to be a breaking news." But yeah, so it's I think it's really important to get. First of all, it's good for board state, right? To get the early breaking news scored because it sets you up, right? You're on the way, but it puts the pressure on immediately as well, right? Like the second you score that first one, your opponent knows I am on a clock here.
Yes.
Yeah.
The 24/7 boom clock, as we all so very well know.
Yeah.
On the other hand, Laurie is starting to actually amass really good economy. He did manage to find Gamble and Daily Cast, so now he can actually start contesting your R&D, and I think he's hemming and hawing here. He just injected a more, and he's thinking of doing a very big turn. Basically, for those of you who are not very familiar with Laurie's deck, he doesn't run Plascree, he doesn't run Aaron, so basically the only tech card in his entire deck against Sync is the Maw that we saw on the inject. Now, Maw is a very annoying card. I believe you would have played against it a couple of times during the day. How did you find playing against Maw?
I certainly did. And I was lucky in one respect. So my opponent in round 7, I believe it's 7, Jez, was playing what seemed like a fairly regular Whizzard deck with Maw as his console and also Rebirth. So by around turn 3, I think, he rebirthed into Eddie Kim, which is brilliant, yes, because he's got one link and he trashes so many operations. And now Jez, to be fair to him, played that game flawlessly. I had the 24/7 boom combo in hand, I would say 6 different times in the game. Every time he read the board state correctly, knew he had to get a Maw trigger, and he would either run HQ and trash as Eddie, or he'd run HQ, perhaps access Ice, and trash with Maw. And I conceded. It was the only game out of 26 games that I conceded over the 3 days, but I just knew there was no way out. Yeah, so that game, I think, stood to me immensely in this game, because whenever I saw Maw hit, I knew that was not necessarily a win condition for Laurie, but certainly a way to turn off my win condition, and I had to stop it.
And in fact, during his first Maw trigger, as you saw just now when Dirty Laundry into R&D, I believe he hit one of the 2 booms in the hand from the Maw.
Yes.
So the very next turn we saw you draw up a bunch. I think that's a very good way to actually counteract the problem of more. The more cards you have in your hand, the less likely it is that they hit key combo pieces.
Yes, absolutely. And the other thing that I was hoping to do was to draw a couple of different pieces of ice to give me options. So Laurie, if I remember correctly, saw a pop-up window on his
Yes,
access and
that's
R&D.
correct. Yes.
Yeah, so I drew a couple of times, and if I remember correctly, that's a turnpike that I've installed
You're
on top
correct.
of
That
R&D
is a
there.
turnpike. Very good memory. Yes,
Yeah,
that is a turnpike. So that's that's very that goes to show you that there's actually skill involved in piloting this deck. It's not about just drawing the correct combo pieces and winning.
yeah.
You drew very aggressively, click 1 draw, click 2 draw, and that allowed you to find the turnpike you needed to defend R&D. So well done there. That definitely deters further runs and basically makes the Maw install pretty useless now because he can't really trigger it without getting into a lot of problems with your ice. Turnpike's a really nasty piece of ice to deal with as Whizzard.
It is tremendous, yeah. So there's going to be a point later on where Laurie runs an R&D, and it's trace 5, right? So first of all, on the encounter, you're losing a credit, which again, it's that wonderful encounter thing that NBN Ice does. But trace 5 is, first of all, a substantial trace. And then the question is, when you know that your opponent has potentially 3 QPMs in R&D, do you take the tag?
That is always such a tough question, yes.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
never want to donate them 3 points. So yeah, at this point, Laurie's just moneying up, respecting the hard-hitting news threat. This clearly shows that Laurie knows exactly what he's up against. Even though you haven't drawn the hard-hitting news yet, you kind of have to always respect that threat and play around it, which works very
Yes.
well in your favor. Because otherwise, you could be hemorrhaging cards from your central right now if you decided to just run.
Yeah, and I think there's maybe, I think I had 1 or 2 opportunities in the first 10 turns targeting Newton because he played really diligently, and he's an exceptional netrunner player. I think really this came down to the fact that his deck was just really unprepared to face Sink in the cut, perhaps.
For sure, yes. And that's really unfortunate for him. It would have been nice to see him have a fighting chance, but, well, decisions were made. And yeah, the game continues. So now he's playing very aggressively on HQ, which I think is really good. He has a chance to hit the boom from your hand, and if he doesn't hit it, well, he might maw it. So now you reveal the pop-up and the dreaded IP block. So at this point, Laurie looks at his bin. I don't think there was a paperclip here, so he decides to let the trace fire. What was going through your mind here?
Yeah. So at this point, I have 12 credits. Laurie is on, I think, about 13. Okay, so my thoughts were, if I can get us to a point where our credit differential is minimal or I'm slightly ahead, then that's better for me. So it's the sunk cost thing, right, where he's paid for pop-up window, he's hit the IP block. So I think I can boost this by 1 or 2, and he's probably going to pay into it. And sure enough, he did, because you don't want to, just wind up with a tag, have to jack out and clear it. So yeah, I boosted by 1, meaning that he had to pay 4 just to continue and get an access in R&D. So that brings him down to 9 credits now. And he really can't afford to be ending his turn around that. So I think he takes, there we go, yeah, he takes 8 credits off of liberated accounts.
Yeah, everyone was laughing the way he took the money off.
Yeah, I just emptied it.
Yeah, and this is one of the moments where you got very, very lucky with the HQ access. You had 2 cards in your hand, a close accounts and a boom. Not only did he miss the boom on the HQ access, he also missed it on the Maw. That's a 1 in 4 chance. So
yeah,
you got really lucky with saving the boom there. Although, as we'll see later on in the game, the luck kind of evens out. So yeah, we'll talk about that more later. But what we see here is you frantically drawing up, again, padding your hand with other cards that are not boom, so that yeah, Maw will be less effective. I really like this play here.
Yes.
And as you mentioned earlier, pumping the trace on IP block, I would have done the same. I was hoping you would, and you were doing a very good job of it. By pumping the trace, you take down his credit level. As long as you're rich enough to force him to pay more, bringing him down below 12 credits means that it's easier to then hard hitting you. So I really, really love that very subtle play, boosting the trace. Now we come on R&D. Laurie says, hey, HQ is too taxing. The pop-up is not good for me. Let's go on R&D. First thing he hits is probably the worst ice that he can ever hit, an Archangel.
Yes, it truly is. Yeah. So, like, I know that Maw is integral to his game plan at this point, and Archangel is so taxing, particularly as you can see by the face-up card in his heap, uh, because like Black Orchestra just doesn't break this for anything economical at all, right?
No, you can't.
Yeah, yeah. So really, really great Archangel there. Just about saved me. Um, and then he continues and sees the bad news, which is that there's a turnpike behind it. Yes. Yeah. So, and this is great, right? This is his last run on R&D. For the rest of the game, he ignores it completely. And the reason he does is because the cost of running through there to one, just see one card and potentially get a Maw trigger is really uneconomical for him.
Yes, and this is where we see the huge weakness of Red Wiz rig, where you are relying on York and data suckers with Mimic to get through R&D. That's a very high down payment rig. You need 3 clicks and 9 credits to install York Mimic Sucker. And you just don't have that tempo against Sync, not in at this stage of the game. So as a punishment, Laurie has to pay 6 credits for the Archangel Trace, 1
Yes, he
credit for
does.
the Turnpike Encounter, and he has to make a choice between Trace 5 and taking a tag. As we'll soon see, he'll end up taking the tag, which basically costs him another 3 credits to remove. So for a
Yeah,
rest
and
cost of
and
6 on your R&D, you tax him 10 credits? Seems pretty good.
yeah, and that is once. So I'll pay those 6 credits once, but he'll pay that 10 every time. Or as I said, he just won't run it for the rest of the game.
Yeah, and look, he got the second worst card in your deck. The 15 minutes. Oh dear, oh dear.
Yeah, that was really good news actually, because at 15 minutes is an agenda that number one, I don't mind him stealing because I can take it back, but number two, it doesn't trigger them all.
Doesn't trigger more. Yeah, the only better thing that he could have hit was the Quantum Predictive. The Quantum Kitty will go to you, and suddenly 24/7 is alive and kicking. That would have been amazing. Remember that he's tagged from the Turnpike, so
Yes.
that would have been great. But no, 15 minutes is still pretty good, and he clears the tag, so that brings him down suddenly to 9 credits, even after taking an entire Liberated. So
Yes,
you are in
exactly.
very good shape right here.
So he goes down to 9 credits, and at this point, for clicks 3 and 4 this turn, he takes 2 more credits, bringing him back up to 11, which I think was probably the best play he could make, right? Because it disincentivizes. Now, I realize I'm lower on credits, but there's a possibility that I could play a couple of economy cards in hard-hitting news. This disincentivizes that.
Yep.
So again, just the exact right play from Laurie, I think. It's really hard to look at his play at any point here and say, I don't think he should have done that. It's all really, really solid.
No, given the situation, I think he did the best. He did exactly what he needed to do. And hey, look, second breaking news. The combo's
Yes.
live.
Yes, it is. And I've played against Sync enough times that you need to make a decision. So I had a number of games against Sync. I'm going to say maybe 3 or 4 as Whizzard. And I think I won all but one of them. You know what? Yeah, I don't think anyone beat me as Sync. And I think the key is to know when to flip the switch where you go tag me.
Yes,
Right.
for sure.
Yeah. So, for example, in one of the games against, I think Rasmus, he was also playing the Sync Hill deck, and I had an opportunity to keyhole quite aggressively. Now, it brought me down to 6 credits, and I thought, you know what? I can do it. I'll go down to 6. If he hard-hitting uses me, it's okay. And the reason it was okay is because I had Siphon and 2 Dejas in my hand, and there was already a Plascrete on the table. So I thought, you know what? I'm going to take these keyhole accesses while I can, and then when the opportunity arises, I will siphon him into the ground.
That's a very good point. Of course, your Siphon Keyhole deck is a lot more effective at flipping the switch, because with Siphon you can bring them out of wound range, and with Keyhole you can ensure quick victory. Laurie does not have access to any of that at all, so flipping the switch for him was definitely not an option. What he could do, however, was to maximize his more triggers, which I think was a very legit play. So he went for HQ here, accessing an archive memories and trashing an irrelevant data Raven, I think. Yeah.
Yes, it was a Raven, yeah. I was quite relieved actually that he didn't trash the archive memories, just because of the utility of that card, being able to take so many important combo pieces from the bin should they get trashed.
Oh yeah, it's possibly the best card in your deck, one that you're never upset to see.
Agreed. Yeah.
Could be anything. Could be anything you wanted. So okay, here we have the very interesting play. You click one drew, and that click one draw drew you into Jackson Howard. You immediately slammed it on the table and drew another 2 cards to discard.
Yes.
So walk us through your thought process behind making this play here.
So I would say anybody who has played Sync for any reasonable amount of time will know that right now you are drawing like crazy for those 2 key cards. So at this point, I think I have a boom in hand still. Yes, I do. I still have a boom in hand. So I really want to see the 24/7. There's 2 of them in the deck. I'm looking at it thinking there's probably a little under 30 cards left. So every time I click Jackson Howard, I have a reasonable chance of seeing one of those 2 magic 24/7s. So yeah, just drawing up. Also, I was hoping to see another piece of ice. So I wanted to go 3 ice deep on HQ because that is where he was still focusing his runs to get those maw triggers, and I knew if I could shut off maw triggers, that I would be in a much stronger position. So yeah, I'm looking for another piece of ice at this point as well. But if the 24/7 comes first, all the better.
Yes, I think you identified your key weakness in HQ. That's quite important because all the time that he was getting HQ accesses, he was getting basically 2 shots every HQ run at getting your boom. 1 from the HQ run itself, 1 from Maw. So sealing that off ASAP was a very good choice, one that you consciously made. So as we talked about, your main win condition at this point is 24/7 boom. Were there any other win conditions running through your head, or were you just tunnel into finding 24/7?
Yeah, the main focus was 24/7, right? I would say it was 24/7 boom. The other win condition I'm potentially considering or hopeful for is if I could get 24/7 closed accounts into hard-hitting news, which is a fantastic combo, because if you land them with 6 tags, it's a tempo hit that essentially no runner deck can afford to take to try and clear them. So once the runner decides that they're going to float tags, you have a lot of outs. So any boom is going to win it for you. Any archive memories, if you have a boom in the bin, is going to win it for you. And then the other great win condition, and I think what really brings this deck from being great to an exceptional corp deck is the exchange of information, right? Or the mythical exchange of information, archive memories, exchange of information playing.
It happens. Never
it does.
So
yes.
Yeah, your pop-up window gets parasited here, and he now sees the thing that's about to go on HQ if he fails to maw it, and he fails to maw it. He gets something else. I don't remember what this one was, but I think it was pretty irrelevant.
Yes, I can't recall exactly what was mawed away. That you know what, actually, I think possibly an exchange of information. At one point, an exchange goes in the bin anyway.
Yeah, you might be right about that. So yeah. At this point, I guess that gets shut off a bit. You still have archive memories for it. Anyway, back to what you said. You were thinking about icing up HQ. So click 1, you draw. Hopefully you find the 24/7, but you don't. So the next best thing you can do here: pay 1 credit, get the ice on HQ, and then take 1 credit, landing you exactly at 4 credits. So that you can rest the Raven. Very well planned out there. You knew that you needed only 4 credits to rest the Raven, so you could actually afford to spend your first click drawing.
Yes, exactly. Again, so get as many options as possible. In my earlier Netrunner days, I wasn't as good at planning out a full turn, right? This idea that you think, okay, maybe take a couple of credits, and then, drawing last click, which is about as bad a thing as you can do. So I drew up, knowing that really 4 credits was the magic number for 2 reasons. 1, because I could res the Data Raven, but 2, because 4 is that credit number that he needs to respect for the 24/7 boom combo.
Yes, that's a very good point as well. He needs to know, as long as you have 4 credits, he has to know that the combo could be live anytime from now. So, yes, well spotted.
Yes.
And having just seen the Raven from HQ, he basically knows that it's a Raven from HQ and that there's no point running into that. Speaking of which, last turn Laurie possibly made the worst possible mistake in his life. He decided to install John Masanori. goodness knows why, I have no idea. Against Sync, where clearing attack is something that you need to do, John Masanori is
Yes.
probably the worst possible thing he could have installed. I understand he needed tempo on his runs, but right in
Yeah.
this scenario, the only way that he can viably get through Data Ravens is to parasite them down. And he can't parasite them without first phase checking into them, which means taking a tag for ending the run. You don't want to run through a Raven the normal way. You want to end the run, jack out, and then drop the parasite on it. So Laurie basically holding himself to a corner here, basically saying, I can't run HQ.
Yes. So I definitely agree with what you're saying. I think in Laurie's position, I probably would have done the same thing, and it's because of that word that you said. It's tempo, right? So if he can get a card draw each turn without having to, dedicate to actually clicking it, I think that's definitely a positive thing for him. Also, I think he's reasonably confident that there is nothing that will hard stop him from making a successful run. So sure, he might have to take a tag from a Data Raven, but he knows he can get in if he wants to. So it's definitely a tricky one. That is probably an inflection point for him where, he can go one way or the other. Yeah, I think I probably, in his shoes, would have installed the John Masanori as well. It is a risky play, though.
It is. I mean, especially knowing that there's a Raven in the bin, you know that the deck runs 3 Ravens, you know that there's Archive Memories in their hand. To me, it just doesn't really add up. But in either case, what we're about to see is a little... Probably the only questionable play I see from you this entire game, which is install a pop-up window on HQ on your last click, putting you on 2 credits. So what was your thinking behind this line of play?
Yes. So this was the decision for me, right? I could go one of 2 ways here, and I wanted to further disincentivize the HQ runs. I thought 2 stacked pieces of ice might do more to disincentivize that, considering he had John Masanori on the table. I thought, okay, there's more variables for him to consider if he does decide to run HQ. Maybe this will cause him to pause a little bit and not necessarily just hammer HQ straight away again.
Yep.
I was, however, very conscious that I was bringing myself down to a credit level where I couldn't afford to res both of the pieces of ice. And I wasn't 100% sure it was the right decision. Objectively, it was probably a mistake, but I got away with it.
Yep, you did.
A bit lucky there, yeah.
Yeah, so basically it is the threat of Data Raven that in this particular... This is a very specific scenario, but it is the threat of Data Raven ending the run that is the most problematic for Laurie in terms of getting accesses, because, pop-up, you can just run through it a couple of times, doesn't matter. With Raven, the on-encounter effect means that he loses a click and 3 credits every single time. The trace means he has to pay an additional 3 credits. It's possibly the worst piece of ice to encounter, and he doesn't want to just bounce off it because of John Masanori. So in that situation, just the sheer fact that you had 4 credits and what seemed like a Data Raven HQ should be more than enough to deter him. You did not need the second pop-up there. That said, you did need to discard down at the end of your turn, and I imagine you had a lot of cards in your hand that you wanted to keep. So
yes,
that probably factored into your decision as well.
Yeah, so I believe at this point I have at least 2 agendas in HQ. There is a QPM and there's also a global food at this point. So my hand looks something like sweeps, QPM, boom, global food, and I want to say another piece of ice. I'm not entirely sure what the 5th one was. Do you recall?
Me neither. I can't really remember. On this HQ run, because he wasn't able to rest Raven, he managed to get a QPM off it, and that was untagged, so he got the very crucial kitty off, which is never good for Sync.
Yeah, so mistakes were made. Like, for sure, if I had not installed the pop-up window, he would have had to encounter the Data Raven, and that would have been a QPM in my score area.
Yeah. In your shoes, I would have dropped the pop-up window on Archives. I think that would have been probably the most reasonable line of play, because you are probably going to pitch agendas into Archives at some point, and a deterrence on Archives always helps. But no matter.
I considered that actually as well. Yeah, I really did.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure you've iced Archives a lot throughout your days. The other interesting thing that you're doing is that you're drawing a lot of on during your turns. Like last turn and this turn as well. I think you draw at least 2, if not 3 cards on your turn between mandatory draw and clicks. So that's one way to play it. I think it's quite obvious why you would do that. You're trying to find the 24/7. Drawing is obviously the fastest way for you to get there. Now, did you consider hard-hitting news as a possible way to win the game without 24/7? Just drop a hard-hitting news and, click for credits every turn. And when you're richer than him, just drop a hard-hitting news. What do you think of that?
Yes, I was considering that play, and it's something that I actually decided against consciously. And the reason I did is because I thought, in terms of which would be faster to achieve, the likelihood of me seeing the 24/7 was better. And there's 2 of each card in the deck, so I was definitely equally likely to see both of them, for example, right? But I was also conscious that, like, I've lost games in the past where I played too passively, right? And I saw that as being probably the more passive route to victory, whereas actively drawing and trying to get the 24/7 into my hand, as opposed to increasing my credit total, was me actively going after a victory instead of waiting for the victory to come to me.
Yeah, that is very true. I think in your position, I would have went with the money route, and I probably wouldn't have done as well as you did. The money route is good because if you click for credits instead of drawing cards, you give yourself more outs in your deck. From 2 24/7, suddenly you have 4 cards because your hard-hitting users are turned on as well. However, on the other hand, as you very rightfully pointed out, you don't want to give Reckless time, because once they have time to set up Data Sucker, they can start running through R&D, getting accesses, and most importantly, getting more triggers. So I think you end up making a very right call there. You needed to close out the game very quickly, and even though you didn't know that his deck didn't... Yeah, I mean, given that you didn't know his deck had no plus creep, you were assuming that he might have plus creep, you wanted to get a kill in before he drew it. So I think you played it very well right there.
Yeah, so that was something that I only discovered afterwards. So I had gone over to the FFG guys, and they gave me the trophy and the playmat, which was really exciting. And then I came back, and Laurie was like, "So, I'm on 3 rumor mill, right?" Which I had no idea about. So I'm probably glad I didn't, because if I knew that he had no tech apart from Maw, I think I would have been maybe, I don't want to say complacent. I'd like to think I would have remained composed, but always thinking, look, he could have Plascrete, he could have an Aaron. It kept me playing as hard as I could.
Yeah, definitely. You were definitely on your toes there, and I think that worked out better for you. Otherwise, yeah, as I said, you might have gone for the credit play that I did. I would have, rather. Playing slow and taking credits instead of drawing for your 24/7, and that might have ended up really badly for you if Laurie was able to assemble his rig. So, yep, yeah. Good on you.
So that turn just there, that is the turn where I can't remember what my mandatory draw was, but I know click 1 was 24/7.
Yes, and that was so awkward because you couldn't play 24/7 and boom, you were just 1 click short. So you had to wait for next turn.
Yes. So at this point, I have 2 global foods in hand, or I did until I discarded one. So at this point, I get a little bold, and I think, you know what? I've sufficiently disincentivized running on HQ. I don't think he's going to get a Maw trigger this turn. I'm going to pitch the global food because I think this might be it.
And yes, he takes credits. This is it. I knew you won. Sitting at the back lines, I knew you had it, and that was the game. Very well played. You found the 24/7, and very rightfully deserved the victory. It was getting quite tight because you were starting to draw enough agendas to lose you the game. That is always a hairy situation with no Jackson in sight. But you managed to pull it off.
Yeah, I had only used 1 Jackson, so like, if he, for example, hadn't run Archives and I had drawn a Jackson later, I might have been safer. But it was definitely a chance I was willing to take. The throwing away the GFI into the bin was maybe reckless. Maybe I'd go as far as reckless as opposed to just bold. But yeah,
I do it all the time. That's why I always ice Archives, because you always have agendas in the bin. And yeah, in the end, dropping the Irish flag on the table. A big win for Team Ireland.
Yes, yeah, we had a great group that came over. So we had, I think, 7 who came over for Netrunner, but we had maybe 3 or 4 who came over for Game of Thrones as well. And a couple of the Game of Thrones guys had the Irish flag, and they said, "Listen, put this on the table for the final." And I said, "Ooh, I'm not going to do that in case I lose too, because I don't want the flag to be there for that." But yeah, whenever I won the second game, they gave me the flag, and I said I'd try and get it on stream.
That's really great. You should have been running around with an Irish flag as a cape.
All right, welcome back. I'm glad to be joined by the European champion, Mike. How's it going? How are you feeling?
I'm in shock, which is probably not surprising. Yeah, overwhelmed actually. I came here with a bunch of friends from Ireland. Shout outs to Mark and Barry in particular, and like aspirationally hoped to make day 2. I even ID'd at the end of day 1 to ensure I made day 2.
Oh yes, okay.
Yes.
So you did you enter day 2 on 6-4?
Actually, slightly over it. So
Okay.
what happened was I had a timed win, and I would have ended on, say,
Oh,
17. I would have ended in 17 prestige, and I needed 18.
So you were like 6.5, 3 or something.
Yeah.
So
pretty
you
close.
ID'd or something like
Yes,
that.
yeah, exactly.
Oh,
So
right.
I ID'd with my opponent Sabina in the 5th round.
Okay.
And then came into Saturday, and I swept my first opponent, Guillaume. Then, let me see, trying to get this right in my head.
So you got very close because so when the standings after day 2 were originally announced, you were 17th.
After day 2.
That's right, because then there was a clerical with one of the results. You got bumped into 16th, right? Because someone had submitted the incorrect result. Is that
yes,
right?
This was very interesting. So whenever the initial top 16 was announced, I was announced in 16th place.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, which I felt like ecstatic about, right?
Yeah.
So about 10 minutes later, they make an announcement, and the announcement is that the top 16 has changed, and Seamus McLeod is now in 16th.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, you moved from 16 to
Yes.
15, so you were already in the cut.
Absolutely.
Okay, interesting. Okay.
And I was crestfallen, to say the least. So I walked back up, approached the judge, and I said, "Sorry, my name is Mike. I was in 16th. What's happened?"
Oh, you thought you dropped.
Yes.
Oh, no.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And he said, "Actually, no, don't worry about it. You're in 15th now. Seamus is in 16th.
Okay, interesting. Yeah.
Yes.
So there was an issue where someone had reported the wrong result and they got dropped down.
Yeah,
okay,
exactly,
right.
yeah.
Okay. So, but you had already made the cut for that happened. Let me ask you about your deck choices today.
Absolutely.
Okay. So let's start the runner.
Sure.
Why did you choose that runner? Did you make any specific tech decisions in that runner for today?
Yeah, so a couple of things. I changed my mind on Wednesday. I was on DL or Andy because of a couple of things. One, I've been playing it since Citadel Sanctuary was released in November, and I like it, but it's got a couple of tough matchups, but also against literally everyone, it can be sluggish to get off the ground. So I changed my mind, and I went with Wiz, and probably for 2 reasons. So I played against a guy just randomly on Jinteki, I can't recall his name, and he said, "Who do you think is the best runner in Netrunner right now?" And I was like, "Well, it's Whizzard, right? Because he's an Anarch and those 3 credits."
Yeah.
So Wiz, I think, was the obvious choice. And then the reason for the Siphons is because of the Moons matchup, 100%. I thought it would do well. And I thought that because I watched Ben Nee play a video, play a game on video. So he tested against Tagore, and he had 2 games. And the first game, he just got destroyed because he didn't see any Siphons. The second game, he destroyed Tagore.
Okay. Interesting.
Yeah. So then the question was how to spread influence. So I went for 2 Siphons, 1 planned assault, which is 10. I put in 2 employee strikes because I felt it would be good against CI, etc.
Okay. Yeah.
And for my last 3 influence, I went with Apocalypse.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah.
So was that an asset spam tech piece?
Yes. So 2 things. 1, definite tech against Moons, and 2, it's probably my favorite card in Netrunner.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So is it like the flavor text is like "I am big on death," you know,
Right,
the
yes,
Bag of Bagheera thing. Yeah. Just a fantastic card, and I think I landed maybe 4 or 5 over the course of the weekend.
Does that now, as the European champion, you are going to have the
Yes.
right to design a card? Is that a clue as to the kind of card you might design?
So here's the thing. Yesterday morning, I was 36th. I didn't even know I was 36th at the time. I was casually walking in with my friends, and I was like, you know what? I promise you, on record right now, that if I win this, we'll design the card together. And we actually had an idea, which I probably can't say now.
That's
in case
fine.
That becomes
you
it.
can drop any clues you like. You don't have to
Yeah.
explain it all, though.
Yes. So not all bad publicity is bad. That's the sentiment we're
okay.
possibly going for.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, that sounds interesting. Okay. Anyway, so we went off topic for a second there. So you explained your runner. Interesting. Your corpse. You chose Sync, which
I
is
did choose Sync.
There was a lot of Sync, but it was definitely not the most common deck.
No, it wasn't.
So why
actually.
did you choose Sync?
And you know what? I was really surprised. Not that it wasn't the most common deck, but that it wasn't even the most prevalent NBN in the cut, right? So I saw, I think, 4 NBNs in the cut. And I'll backtrack a bit, actually. Before today, I didn't play anybody in the top 16.
Right.
So I wasn't familiar with what they were playing. Anyway, I assumed that it would be Sync because I thought it's an insanely strong deck. Like, there's games where you're going to have to work hard and really think hard with it.
Yeah.
But you will play games like maybe 1/3, maybe 1/4 of your Sync games, and you do not have to think. The deck plays itself.
It does.
Yes.
It does.
So I had erroneously assumed that all of the 4 NBNs in top 16 would be Sync, but they weren't. It was actually 2 Sols and I believe CTM. Was it Kenny was on?
There was a CTM. There was at least 1 Sol. I don't know. There could have been second Sol. Sure.
So I played against I want to get his name right. So it's Rotage. It's the Diaper Legend.
Dave Sayer was on.
Dave,
yes,
thank you.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah,
Sorry,
he was on Sol. That's right.
Yes, he was on Sol. I played him maybe the 3rd round in the cut. And
that was in the winners bracket, right?
Yes, it was indeed.
Yes,
And I got quite lucky in that I got early siphons and he didn't get currents. I'm getting off track though. So Sync. Watched Worlds last year. Absolutely loved Benny's deck.
Yes, of course.
Just a big fan of Ben in general. Anyway, so really enjoyed the deck. Thought it was excellent. And then Aaron Maron kind of crapped all over it.
Yes,
but then they released MCA. So honestly, the only question is, when you bring in 2 MCA, what do you drop for it? Because I think his deck is nigh on flawless. I mean, like, the agenda suite is literally flawless.
Yeah.
You could debate about Astro versus NAPD, but I think it's worth going for the NAPD for the tax. So and then some guy had posted a deck, and it actually is the very same deck that I brought. Like, we had arrived at the same thing independently. But his comment was that this deck is card perfect until something substantially excellent comes out for it.
Yes. Okay.
And I think it is. Yeah, the Sync deck is.
So did you? So you played that. Now, was part of your decision to play that because you're expecting everyone else to be on Moon and runners to be teched for Moons?
No,
a little bit.
I wish I could say that was like a decision they made, like a conscious decision, but it actually wasn't.
It was just because you think it's a strong deck.
Yes, I think it is an exceptionally strong deck. Okay. Yes, and I got some advice from a friend of mine, Tony, and he was saying, like, you know, if you bring 2 decks that, number one, you're familiar with, but also decks that aren't going to be enormously mentally straining, it'll make playing easier.
Yes.
And and really solid advice, of course.
Cool, amazing. So you're from Limerick, I think.
I'm from Limerick in Ireland.
Did you have a small? Do you have like a team if you come over? You came with friends and things like that?
Yeah. So the Mark and Barry that I mentioned earlier, we're both from Limerick, or all 3 of us are from Limerick. Then there was Owen from Cork. We had, let me get this right, 3 guys from the north came as well, I think.
Yeah.
And
did you travel together? No. Not with the guys from North.
No, not at all, actually. And then Oisin, who loves Netrunner and has an exquisite Anarch tattoo in his bicep, actually ended up playing Thrones because he made a decision on a game pre-Most Wanted list and then regretted it, unfortunately.
Yes, okay.
So we have a kind of a fractured Netrunner community at this point.
But you travelled over as a team, and I'm sure they were like supporting you.
Yes,
how
absolutely.
Did any of them make day 2?
Yes. So Owen made day 2, and Peter made day 2 as well.
Oh, great.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm sure they're very proud of you as well.
Yeah. God, their support was invaluable. Like, yesterday, I was quite nervous. So they came up to me after each game and were like, "Listen, calm down. Barry's mantra is play your decks," and he's 100% right.
Will we see the World Championships?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I'm very excited. I've never been to Worlds before.
You get a flight for winning, right?
Yes, I do.
Yes, and you get a ticket. I think all the top 4 tickets.
Yeah, and a ticket for a friend as well.
Yeah. Oh, that's right. You get a +1 ticket. Yeah.
Very exciting.
Cool. Yeah. So you'll be at Worlds. It's fine.
Yes,
it's in November, right?
Yeah. Plenty of time to plan.
Bring your wife +1. You can design the cards while you're there.
Yeah.
Great. All right. Well, I expect your friends and maybe some other people want to buy you a drink. So I'll let you go. Yeah.
And then I got to run to the airport because I have a flight.
That's right. You have a flight. You've got plenty of time.
Approximately 3 hours.
Okay. All right. So So you
We
got
have
like an
time,
hour
we
to
have time,
check in.
yeah.
You got plenty of time. Great. All right. Well, thanks. Congratulations.
Thank you so
And
much.
Thanks very much for coming on to speak to me as well.